Buenos días. Íbamos a predicar en el español, en el idioma del cielo, pero dicen que no hay traducción, así que en inglés vamos a hacerlo. We were going to speak in Spanish, but we'll do it in English today, and there's some translation if you need. It's a privilege for us to be here today. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Bing, for having us and taking such good care of us. And it's cool because we know some people here. So Nate Karseski, I don't know if he's here this morning or if he's with the youth right now, but we went to school with Nate and at Tacoma Falls College. And then we also have a family friend that's really, they're more family than just friends. The Aller family is with us. Danny and I grew up in the dorm together in Ecuador. My parents were his dorm parents, and they're here visiting as they bought a house close by, I think. So we're happy to have them as well. But it's a great opportunity to come together and learn about Christ and about partnership and about what God is doing around the world. Elisa and I have served as missionaries in Peru for 10 years, then Ecuador for 15 years, and like Bing said, we're now nomads, which means we go 1 to 3 months of each country of Latin America to try to reach the 300 million youth in Latin America with Christ's love.
Como dijo Rich, we are emocionados de estar con ustedes, sabiendo que muchos tienen raíces latinoamericanas, así que nos sentimos en casa. We wanted to let you guys know a little bit about our family. We have 4, we think they're amazing children. Our oldest daughter is married, and she is living in Maryland with her husband, and they have ushered us into the most amazing stage of being grandparents. We have this picture was taken just a month ago, so he's a little over 1, and man, he makes it hard now every time we have to say goodbye. I mean, we love our kids, but he's really hard to say goodbye to. Our 3 younger children, they're all living in Florida right now. Our youngest is studying at University of Central Florida in Orlando. And then the other 2 are sharing an apartment, a house now, and both are working bilingually in the city of Tampa and absolutely loving serving people. So that's just a little bit about our family. We call our family the United Nations because they were all born in different places. And so all of us together, all 7 of us, have 22 passports. We can talk later about how that all works, but it's a lot of paperwork.
Lisa sings in a band called Corban. Corban is a missionary band, and that means that they like to go to places where other bands don't go. So they've gone 4 hours by mule into a community in Ecuador, and the whole community comes because they never have concerts. But Corban they've done crazy tours. One year they did 167 presentations in 167 days. That was crazy, but they continue to have one goal, and that is to connect people's hearts with God's heart. If you've ever been to Life Conference, they've been to the last 4 Lifes. That sounds like reincarnation, but the last 4 Life Conferences, they've been able to be there as well. If you're interested, you can look them up on Spotify and YouTube and check them out. So I'm in Argentina, and it's Christmas time, and we go to the beach. Why do we go to the beach at Christmas time in Argentina? Because it's hot. It's hot in Argentina at that time. And what do you eat in Argentina? Steaks, some of the best beef asados that you can have. And so we ate a great asado. There's our 4 kids and my brother-in-law's 4 kids, a big asado. And after you're done with the asado, you have to wash it down with, you're thinking wine. Ice cream. We were talking to little kids. The kids were little. And so we went to the ice cream shop. There were so many people in this beach town that they'd closed off the roads. The cars weren't allowed on. So many people were crowding the streets. But we went in the ice cream shop, and we got ice cream for each one of our kids. It was so crowded that instead of leaving the ice cream shop and going out the main door, we went out a side alleyway door, and we started shopping. About 20 minutes went by, and Lisa said, "Rich, have you seen our daughter, Michela?" Michela was 3 years old at the time. I said, "She's got to be here. All these kids running around." No, she wasn't there. So she went back to the shops where we'd been doing the shopping, and I ran to the ice cream shop, and I said, "Have you seen my daughter? She's 3 years old." They said, "No, we haven't seen her." I ran out into the streets, and in the multitude started to realize the horror of losing a child. If you've ever lost a child, you know what that's like. And so I started thinking the worst, They've cut her hair and they've sold her off into slavery somewhere, and I've lost my daughter, Michaela. So I'm running through the streets yelling her name, Michaela, Michaela, and then trying to hear if she would answer. There was no answer. But in the distance, I heard clapping. No music, just clapping. And then it registered that in my mind, Lisa had told me years ago that in Argentina, when a child is lost, those that find the child stand around the child and clap until the parents come. What a great idea. I don't know why we don't do that in the rest of the world. So I went running to where I heard the clapping. There was Michaela with the kind of group around her clapping, and she had ice cream all down her chest. And we had taught her not to talk to strangers, so they were trying to comfort her, and she was kicking them, don't get up. And I knelt down and I said, oh, Michaela, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Are you okay? She said, yes, I am. So I picked her up because I realized Lisa hasn't found her yet. So I started walking through the multitude of people looking for Lisa. Where's Lisa? Now, Lisa's a beautiful woman, right? But in those moments of horror of losing a child, almost her face was even disfigured. I'm not saying she was ugly, but there was this horror on her face that I'll never forget. And when I waved to her and said, it's okay, we have her. Michaela's okay, she's right here with us. She went back to her beautiful self she is today. When was the last time that you were horrified by lost people? People are lost without Jesus. God loved the world so much that he sent Jesus to be disfigured for us who are lost. He was nailed to the cross in the crown of thorns. You know, there's lost people all over the world, but you know the Christian Missionary Alliance? We're good at sending people to the least reached nations, to those that are lost so that they can come to know Jesus.
That's what I love about the Alliance. That's what the Alliance and Incalink is doing. We've got fresh clarity in a complex world. Luke 15, 6-7 says, rejoice with me, I have found my lost sheep. I tell you that in the same way, there will be more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 righteous persons who do not need to repent. As part of the Alliance, we are given a very specific task. Here's a quote from the Alliance in 2021. The task of taking all of Jesus to all the world is the reason God breathed the Alliance into existence. This is why we send workers. This is why we plant churches. This is why we extend the love, care, and compassion of Jesus to the world's suffering, marginalized, and underserved. It's also why we go to the last, remaining hard places instead of locations that are more hospitable to the gospel message.
The Alliance has many missionaries in different types of missionaries. When our parents were missionaries, they basically went to plant churches. Today, the Alliance is so diverse that you can see missionaries doing all kinds of things, international workers across the globe. We have first, some are serving in communities. So they're helping feed people's stomachs when there's an emergency. There's other groups that are working on planting churches still and multiplying those churches so that there's a network of churches. But then also we have developing people, training leaders so that we can leave a legacy of others who will go behind us and take the gospel around the world. Inca Link is also involved in these. We have church planting. We have helping people be served in their communities, as well as developing people and having training of leaders.
The Alliance has over 700 workers who are sent out and are on the field today into 70 different people groups in 142 cities.
And Inca Link, that started in 2006, has 32 missionaries who have been sent out and are currently on the field, and 100 nationals to 9 different countries.
And there's something really exciting that we want to share with you guys this morning about Inca Link's long-term impact. We asked all our missionaries and all our staff to add up in the last 5 years how many had been exposed to the gospel through their ministries. That means that they at least heard the gospel. Maybe they were already Christians, but they were able to hear some more, get closer to Christ. They maybe became Christians or left without following Christ, but hearing about Christ. And here are some of the stats that we gathered. You can look at them here in North America, the people that have been sent out and who we've been able to disciple. And then Latin America, the missionaries that are serving with us, the leaders that have been trained. And I just want you to see that last number. 2.2 million have been exposed to the gospel in the last 5 years through our ministries.
Praise the
Amen.
Lord.
That's all God.
Yeah. And then we asked our missionaries and staff how many people actually did accept the Lord. So 2.2 million were exposed to the gospel. How many actually gave their lives to Christ? And the number came to about 151,000 people in Latin America have come to know Christ through Incalink since it started. Praise the Lord for that as well. The bad news is that that's still less than 1% of the 300 million youth in Latin America. We have a lot of work to do still, but God is doing a great work in us.
I mean, think about it, 300 million youth, that is a lot of work. So what's the plan? That's a God-sized goal. What is Inca Link's plan? Well, I want you guys to help me. Holding up your 4 fingers like this, okay? Don't leave me alone. All right. This is how we're doing it, 4 ways. First, it's evangelism and discipleship. Jesus not only tells us to go and introduce people to Jesus, but we need to disciple them, walk with them as they grow closer to him. Training leaders. We cannot do this job alone. And we've been in South America. I mean, that's where we were born and raised. We know there are a lot of people who could be doing a much better job than we're doing. We need them. We want to train them. Third is connecting people. We feel like God led us to very many different countries. Our kids were born in different countries. We were born in different countries so we could have connections to connect people together to grow closer to Christ. And we love to do short-term missions that aren't just a tourism trip, but they actually have a long-term missional impact. And finally, our compassion ministries. This is where we live in community and we see the community's needs and we reach out and help the least of these. Now, if you turn these upside down, I don't see a lot of hands up. You guys got tired, huh? Come on, we can do this. You'll get some muscles by the end. So our compassion ministries, we realize those are the things that attract our short-term teams, right? Because they want to do something to help. And these short-term teams, we're very upfront. We say, we're going to charge you a little bit more so that we can keep training the leaders and doing evangelism and discipleship 365 days of the year.
So we talked about fresh clarity in a complex world, and the Alliance is bringing that clarity through missions. And now, second, we want to talk about emerging opportunities. Matthew says it this way, talking about Jesus, when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because they were harassed and helpless like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest. In the Alliance, we're excited with all the different kinds of missions that we can be involved in. It used to be just the church planting missionaries, but now today we're seeing people who are actually making a difference in any kind of walk of life that you're in. You can live on mission, both on the field and back home. And as we serve the King and get sent out by the Alliance and Incalink.
Okay, so this morning I want to talk a little bit about CocaCola. I used to say Coke, but Rich said, you better clarify and say CocaCola. So I want to know how many of you have tried Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah? All right? That's, I think all of us, right? Is it good for us or bad for us? All right, we have to admit it's bad for us, but we've all tried it. It's so delicious, isn't it? Now, does it cost us or is it free? It costs, depending on the size, it'll cost a little or a little bit more if you're like me who has a small addiction and likes to drink it a lot. Now, Coca-Cola had a vision where they said, we want to have every country have access to Coca-Cola. 100 years ago, they set forth to make sure that every person could have a Coke in their hand. Do you think that they met this vision in 100 years? Yes, they did. You can find Coke everywhere. There is access to Coca-Cola in every single country. Every person could have a Coke if they want to. Let's talk about the gospel. How long has it been since Jesus commissioned us to go and make disciples of all nations?
About 2,000.
A little over 2,000 years, right? Now, is the gospel good for us? Is it the only hope for people? Yes. Does it cost? No, it's a free gift from God. Of course, that's a tricky question because obviously when you accept Jesus, then it costs you your whole life, right? You lay down your whole life. But it is a free gift that we get. So, 2,000 years, have we reached our goal of everybody having heard the gospel of Jesus? I don't know about you guys, but it makes me mad. Like Bing was saying, it's not good. It's not all right that Coke in 100 years has given access to the entire world for their drink. And we in 2,000 years still have not allowed access to the gospel to everyone. And I get it. I know it's way easier to translate the word CocaCola, slap it on a bottle or a can, and get it to other countries. Sure, it's a lot easier than translating the word of God and communicating Jesus and the hope he is to this broken world. I get it, but still, it's wrong. It's not okay that 2,000 years later, we still see people who don't know Jesus. So let's talk a little bit about all these nations that are lost. Countries versus nations. Jesus said, go and make disciples of all nations. A nation is different from a country. Nigeria, for example, is a country, one country. But within Nigeria, there are 544 nations. A nation oftentimes is an ethnic group that has differences in language, customs, culture, religions, and their whole world perspective, or cosmovisión. We cannot say we have reached the country of Nigeria until we can reach each ethnic group, each nationality represented in that country. So I like to look at it like pancakes and waffles. So you guys know pancakes, right? Have you had some? I had some yesterday. It was delicious. So if you have a pancake and you pour the syrup, it's pretty smooth, and the syrup can go all the way over all of the pancake, right? If you even pour the syrup just from one spot. But with a waffle, because of the little squares in a waffle, you have to be intentional about pouring the syrup in several of the squares, in most of the squares, excuse me, so that you can reach the entire waffle with syrup. That's the way we see countries and nations. So I'm so sorry. I'm not used to this cold. That's how it helps me to see we need to be intentional when we're thinking about reaching all nations to actually go into each of the little ethnic groups, the squares, to spread the gospel.
How many ethnic groups then are there in the world? How many nations, how many groups of these cultural groups and clusters are there in the world? Statistics show us from the Joshua Tree, approximately 17,000 groups around the world. So instead of taking Coca-Cola, if we take the gospel, we have to go to 17,000 culture groups and ethnic groups and help them get to know the Lord. But then how many then are considered unreached? If there's 17,000 ethnic groups in the world, how many of these are unreached? There's approximately 7,000, or 41%, are not reached. What does it mean to be not reached or unreached? It means that you can be born in this town, you can grow up and go to school, you can graduate and get married and start a great job and grow old and have grandchildren and great-grandchildren and drink Coke and never hear the name of Jesus. That's what it means. There's places that they have no opportunity to hear about Jesus. We in the Alliance send out workers to do that. Let me ask you a personal question this morning. If Jesus were to ask you to go, would you? So we've talked about fresh clarity in a complex world. We've talked about emerging opportunities. They're all over the place. The world is big, lots of unreached people groups. Number 3, we send out workers. That's what the Alliance does. That's who we are. Romans 10 says, for everyone who calls on the name of the Lord will be saved. How then can they call on the one they have not believed in? And how can they believe in the one of whom they have not heard? And how can they hear without someone preaching to them? And how can anyone preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring good news. The Alliance has been mobilizing hundreds and thousands of missionaries, international workers through our history to reach the least reached nations. Incalink is mobilizing dozens of missionaries in the last 15 years to reach the 300 million youth of Latin America. As we think of the Alliance, we think of four different structures of ways. These are like channels on how to get to the mission field. So we have four different ways. One is comma services. So you look at the bottom of the hand, represents comma services. It's lending a helping hand to those who need food to eat. A tsunami comes or there's a famine and they need food to eat. The second one is marketplace ministries, and that means anybody who's been trained in anything can go serve overseas and help make disciples of all nations. And the third one is access, and that's church planting. We still plant churches among these least reached nations so that they can reach their own. And then fourth is Envision. Envision exists to develop and identify missional leaders through short-term missions opportunities and innovative ministry strategies. It's how can we reach the next generation and make better disciples than we did before. That's what we're doing in Envision. Lisa and I used to be with Access. We're now with Access. We were with Access and in Envision, and then now we're with Envision. We existed before Envision did, so that's why we kind of got grafted in.
We're so old. That sounds so old. We want to be honest with you guys this morning. It wasn't like Rich and I woke up one morning and said, this traditional missionary stuff. Because when we first arrived in Peru, we were part of church planting. We were part of teaching in the seminary. Our work, our mission work, looked a lot like our parents' mission work. We were very traditional. And it wasn't like we got bored and said, we don't have enough work to do. Let's start a nonprofit. We were just minding our own business, doing our work, and the VP, the Alliance Missions Vice President, came to visit us, and he said, Rich, Elisa, I love what you guys are doing, but listen, we're moving out. The Alliance as a mission is moving out of these South American countries because our churches are strong, and we're needed in more unreached places. So we don't want you to lose all this work. You guys need to start a nonprofit and be recognized, or join a nonprofit and be recognized here in each country. And of course, we didn't want to leave the Alliance. We love the Alliance. Like Rich said, did you already say it? No. We're prenatal Alliance. This has been our whole life. And so we had been studying a book with our youth group called Experiencing God. I don't know if you guys have read it. It's by Blackaby. It's older now, but it's so good. Mi experiencia con Dios, it's called. And we were studying it, and in it, the book talks about you don't make your plans and ask God to bless those plans. You train your eyes and you train your ears to see and hear what God is already doing around you. Where is He? What's He doing? And then you adapt your life to what God's doing. And of course, He's there. His presence is there. That's where the blessing is. So we knew we needed to train our eyes and train our ears and see what God wanted us to do. And that is how Incalink was born. So we kept our ears and our eyes open. And we prayed and said, God, how would you want us to do? So if you look at this map, are we at the map part? Yeah. We started out, we were in the youth group in Peru. They were working with garbage dump people, and so we started right there. Then we were living in Ecuador, and we started Incalink there, and then Colombia, and then Honduras, Costa Rica, Guatemala, and we're about to start Mexico and work with trafficked kids there, both boys and girls. We already have a home that is working with these kids, and we want to help support them. So we look and see what's already happening, and then we adjust our life, and then we get to experience God's presence and blessing over and over again. We feel so privileged to get to walk this life.
You may have seen on the screen, there are some red countries. And being talked about, we're starting 10 new countries in 10 years. Those red countries are where we still need to go. Now, the Romanos are in the Dominican Republic, and we know Rick and Tammy from years ago, before Envision was as well. And Ensenada, Mexico, that's the one we're doing this year. In Mexico, we're starting. But also Brazil, if you think about Hope Unlimited, they're in Brazil as well. So there's so many ways of connection. That's what we love about the partnership with Princeton Alliance Church. And as we think about the future, we think of the roles. Has there been momentum? Yes, it's a snowball of momentum since Incalink started 15 years ago. But now we have important roles that need to be filled to keep that momentum going. I like the way Paul says it to Timothy. He says, and the things you have heard me say in the presence of many witnesses, entrusted to reliable people who will also be qualified to teach others. We're at the stage in our life that we need to find others and entrust into others the vision, the calling that God has given us to reach the youth of Latin America, and that's what we need to do. So how do we do that? We need to fill some places. We need to keep that momentum going. We have monthly donors, and if you're here at Princeton Alliance and you give to the Global Ministry Fund, that helps us in Alliance missions and Incalink and Vision Latin America. You're helping us as well. Short-term teams, come down and see for yourselves what God is doing. God is doing amazing things in Latin America. Come and see and be a part of what he's doing. And then long-term missionaries. We have missionaries from 8 different countries of Latin America that are serving in other countries. It's amazing to see this conglomeration of people come and serve and be sent out. And then join our team. What does it mean to join our team? There's all kinds of opportunities, internships. We have a Link Year program. It's like a gap year for 18 to 22-year-olds that can come down and be in 3 countries in 3 months each. So 3 months in Ecuador, 3 months in Colombia, 3 months in Peru. And there's a mentorship couple that are with you 24/7. You want to learn Spanish? That's a good way to learn Spanish. Also, we have international workers or missionaries. Let's look at the slide there. The Schaefers, they came down, they were in their 50s, and they came down on a short-term missions trip. They used to always do cruises every year as a family. They went to Ecuador on a missions trip one year, and they went back to Seattle, Washington, so gave their business to their kids, moved down to Ecuador, started learning the language, and started a missionary training institute that helps train the indigenous groups of the jungles in Ecuador. The Waorani, they were formerly known as the Aucas, who were the ones responsible for killing the 5 missionaries in the 50s. We're now training those young people and some other tribes as well to go start churches up and down the river, the Amazon basin, where there's no evangelical church. So helping reach the least reached nation. Is God calling you? Is God calling you to maybe move to the mission field? Or is God calling you to stay and support and mobilize others to go? Is God calling you to pray for missions? Connect with us after the service and we can connect you to Alliance Missions.
They say a picture's worth 1,000 words, so we brought a video so that you guys can see a little bit about what we're talking about.
You want to make a difference in the world, but at times it's hard to know where to start. We have been there too, overwhelmed by the need, but we started with what we could do today. In just 1 decade alone, Incalink has been able to share the gospel with 2.2 million people in Latin America, seeing 151,000 decide to follow Jesus. Through 15 ministries in 4 countries, Jesus' love has been seen through meeting practical needs such as food and water, a safe place to play, grow, and learn, and ultimately to hear about the God who loves each and every one of them. But these 2.2 million lives received this hope, not by the few, but by the many. The Incalink missionaries have chosen to devote their lives to live in community with the people in Latin America, through unwavering compassion, divine connections, and relentless service. The boots on the ground are supported and encouraged by the thousands that have put their faith into action. Some have given their time as several short-term teams bring hope and encouragement each year to the ministries. Countless have given their resources and finances to sustain and create environments where we can meet one need at a time, causing a ripple effect into reaching communities. Each person that moves, goes, and gives to Incalink supports our mission to reach the 300 million youth of Latin America with the irresistible love of Jesus. Without our Incalink partners, these 2.2 million lives may have never had access to the gospel. Become an Incalink partner. Let's reach millions more.
Have you ever had a near-death experience? I was swimming in the ocean in Ecuador with a friend, Todd Solvine, who's a church planting director of the Central District of the Alliance in Ohio. And the waves were huge, and so he said, let's measure how high the waves are. He said, I'll go stand under the waves with my fingertips up. You measure from my fingertips to the top of the wave. We'll find out how big these waves are. And so he started swimming out, and all of a sudden, boom, he got dunked. I got dunked, one wave after the other. We couldn't find which way was up, which way was down. And you start wondering how many more breaths are you gonna get before you die. And I remember at one point even saying, Lord, into your hands I commit my spirit, this is it. Somehow there was a gust of water that pushed me out from under the wave, and I was able to get out and get a breath again. And I looked, and Todd was getting out. There was a lifeguard that was kind of standing on the corner in a little peninsula area saying, come over here, come over here. He had the life jacket in his hand. I said, don't you think I'm trying to get over there? Throw me the blasted life jacket so that I can get out. And I'm swimming as hard as I can. And it made me think of something. We did get out, thank the Lord, that day. Sometimes we're at the church and we say, hey, come over here. We're standing at the edge of the church with the life jacket of Jesus. Come in here, while people are drowning out there. Jesus says, go and make disciples. He doesn't say, come, have them come. He says, go and make disciples of all nations. Let's take the life jacket of Jesus around the world.
In 2 Peter, we see, but do not forget this one thing, dear friends. With the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. Now, I don't know if this is literal, if it's truly like this for the Lord, but if we were to take it literally this morning, if we were to do the math, I got to tell my age, don't I?
You do. You get to.
I'm 53. So if we do the math, I've lived 74.73 minutes in God's time. 74.73 minutes. Now, think about your age. You don't have to say it out loud. And then look on this chart, and you can sort of measure how many minutes you guys have lived in your time. We also see in James 4:13 through 14, now listen, you who say, today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why, you don't even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? You are a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Our life is a mist.
You know, as we think about it, the few minutes we have on earth, the question arises, what can we do with those few minutes? It seems like just yesterday, Michela was 3 years old. She's now 26. Time flies when you're having fun. But what are you doing with those few minutes? I think there's people who are clapping around the world saying, I don't want CocaCola, I want Jesus. And we as a denomination, we as Inca Link, are called to go find those people. You know what? Those of you in Princeton are called to find them too. Maybe the last person who needs to know Jesus is right next door, is a neighbor or someone down the street. We know that God is calling all of us to partner together to reach those who are in need. We do just one thing today before we finish, and then Bing's gonna come up and close us. But will you click on this QR code? Let's put that code up there for a little while. And we'd like to hear from you. How can we pray for you? We have a staff in Inca Link that would like to pray for you. We will pray for you as well. And you can tell us a little bit about your life, and we can pray for you. And if you do, we'll give you a free digital Corban CD, English and Spanish music, if you're interested to be able to fill that out today. Thanks for having us. It's been a great time. Bing, if you'll come and close the service for us.